I trusted them both with my life, one, the woman I married, the other, the boy I practically raised like my own. But one quiet afternoon shattered everything. What happens when betrayal comes not from a stranger, but from the people you loved most? This is a story about family, desire, and the kind of secrets that don't just break hearts, they destroy legacies. To our viewers, thank you for being here. Your support means everything. To those who have subscribed, turned on notifications, and left comments, you're the reason we're able to keep sharing these emotionally powerful, real-life inspired stories. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more dramatic tales that cut deep and stay with you. It's strange how something can look so perfect from the outside. A house with trimmed hedges. A dog that greets you when you pull into the driveway. A wife who kisses you goodnight. A teenage son who plays basketball in the driveway. You never think that everything could fall apart from within. But that's exactly what happened to me. My name's Daniel Mercer. I'm 42 years old, live in a quiet suburb in North Carolina, and until recently, I thought I had the kind of life most men would be proud of. I worked in insurance, nothing exciting, but it paid well. My wife, Emily, stayed at home after our son was born and eventually started doing part-time design work online. Our boy, Ryan, was 16. Smart, athletic, kind. The kind of kid who said, "Yes sir," and still told his mom, "I love you," when he left the house. He had his close group of friends, but there was always one kid that stood out among them, Eli Thomas. He was 2 years older than Ryan, already graduated, but the two had been tight since middle school. We'd known him since he was barely 12. Back then, his family had just moved in across the street, divorced parents, dad not in the picture, and a mom who worked nights at the hospital. So Eli practically lived at our place. Ate dinner with us, crashed on the couch, even came on weekend trips sometimes. He was like a second son. I never thought twice about it. Why would I? Emily was always great with the boys. She joked with them, made them snacks, cheered at their games like she was their mom too. Sometimes when I worked late, I'd come home and find Eli sitting at the kitchen island talking with her while Ryan was off playing video games upstairs. She had that kind of energy, warm, comforting, easy to talk to. I figured Eli looked at her like the mother figure he never really had. I couldn't have been more wrong. Looking back, I see the signs. Not all at once, not like flashing lights, but like crumbs dropped quietly in the dark. Tiny moments I brushed off, that now scream at me. There was one night I remember clearly, even though I didn't think much of it then. Emily and I were watching a movie, something light, maybe a rom-com, and Eli texted her. She smiled, then turned the screen just slightly away from me. I didn't ask who it was. I trusted her. She said, "It's just Eli, asking about graphic design stuff," and I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Eli was 19. She was 40. Married. A mother. My wife. This was the woman I held when she cried after losing her dad. The woman I pushed in a wheelchair after her C-section. The woman who held our family together when I got laid off for 3 months back in 2019. She wasn't capable of that. Or so I told myself. Over time, I noticed Eli hanging around more often. Even after he graduated and got a job at the local hardware store, he'd swing by the house on his lunch break. Sometimes Emily would make him sandwiches. Sometimes they'd sit on the porch and talk for hours while Ryan was at school or basketball practice. I chalked it up to motherly kindness. She just feels bad for him, I said to myself. The kid never had much. It's just her being generous. But there was something else. Something I didn't want to admit. There was this look she gave him, not every time, but sometimes, when she thought no one was watching. A softness in her eyes. Something tender, almost nervous. Like a teenager with a crush. I saw it once when I walked into the kitchen unannounced. They were laughing over something on her phone. And the way she looked up at him, it hit me in the gut. But still, I shook it off. She's just being friendly. Don't be paranoid. I think we do that, all of us. We protect the people we love with illusions. We wrap them in innocence so we can sleep at night. But illusions crack eventually. And mine was about to shatter. That summer, Ryan started noticing too. I remember him asking me once, "Dad, is it weird that Mom talks to Eli more than me now?" He said it like a joke, but there was something bitter under his tone. I laughed it off and told him he was imagining things. I wish I'd listened to him then. I wish I'd opened my eyes. The truth didn't hit me like a wrecking ball. It slid in like a slow, cold wind, barely noticeable until everything inside started to freeze. One Saturday, I came home early from the office. I had planned to surprise Emily with lunch, maybe take her out somewhere. The house was quiet when I pulled into the driveway. Ryan was at a friend's place for the weekend. The front door was unlocked. I walked in, calling her name. No answer. Then I heard something. A faint laugh. A giggle. From upstairs. My feet stopped moving. I can't explain why, maybe some primal instinct in me felt what was coming. The air felt different. Tense. Hot and heavy, like something was wrong. I moved slowly up the stairs, heart thudding. The bedroom door was closed. And then, silence. I put my hand on the doorknob. I wish I could say I opened it right then. I wish I could say I had the courage to face the truth in that moment. But I didn't. I backed away. I left the house. I sat in the car for a full hour, staring at the garage door, trying to unhear what I'd just heard. Because deep down, something in me already knew. I didn't sleep that night. Even after Emily greeted me downstairs later that afternoon, smiling like nothing had happened, my thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. I remember the way she brushed her hair behind her ear, the way she asked, "How was your day?" with the same soft voice she'd always used. I nodded, lied, said, "Fine," and went to wash my hands. But something had shifted. In me. In her. In the house. From that moment on, I couldn't look at her the same way. The next few days were like walking through fog. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I hadn't really heard what I thought I heard. Maybe they were watching a movie. Maybe they were just laughing at something stupid. But a man knows. Deep down, we always do, we just don't always want to admit it. That week, I started paying more attention. To everything. Emily's phone, for one. She kept it closer than usual. Always face down. And her laughter, God, the way it changed when she was texting. It wasn't the polite chuckle I usually heard. It was breathy. Playful. Almost girlish. And then there was Eli. The boy couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. He came by one evening, supposedly to return Ryan's headphones. I opened the door. He stiffened. I tried to play it cool, even smiled. But the way his voice cracked when he said, "Hey, Mr. Mercer," told me more than he realized. His eyes darted around like a guilty dog. He didn't step inside. Emily came out of the kitchen, her expression unreadable, too calm, too polished. "You can come in, Eli," she said, like she was inviting in an old friend. But there was something in her voice. Something careful. He didn't stay long. Less than 5 minutes. He avoided my gaze the whole time, then left in a hurry, stuttering an awkward "thanks" on his way out. After that, I started looking for proof. It became an obsession. I'd never done anything like that in my life. Never checked her emails. Never looked at her phone. I believed marriage meant trust, but now I didn't trust my own judgment. So one night, when she was in the shower, I took her phone. Nothing obvious. No saved messages. No photos. But I checked the recently deleted texts, and there it was. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. My heart dropped. No name attached. No thread. Just that single line, like a whisper from a locked room. And that's when the truth began unwrapping itself, slowly, painfully, like a wound reopening. I became a stranger in my own home. She didn't know that I had started leaving work early just to keep an eye on the house. Once or twice, I parked down the block, sat there with the AC running, watching from the rearview mirror. I'd see Eli's car, that beat-up black Honda, slide into the driveway when Ryan was at practice. Every time, my stomach clenched like a vice. They weren't being careless, not entirely. But they were getting comfortable. One Thursday afternoon, I finally walked in unannounced. No knock. No warning. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I took slow steps toward the kitchen. The fridge hummed. The dishwasher was half full. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the counter. But no voices. Then I heard it, movement upstairs. Bare feet on wood. A laugh. A low one. Hers. I climbed the stairs, this time without hesitation. The hallway light flickered slightly. I stopped outside the guest bedroom door. Not our bedroom, the guest one. And that's when I heard it. Her voice. You shouldn't be here right now. Followed by silence. Then another voice. His. But you said he wouldn't be home till 5. My chest tightened. My throat went dry. My hands shook. This was it. Proof. Not imagined. Not suspected. Real. I wanted to slam the door open. To scream. To punch something. But I froze. Because in that moment, something in me shattered. Not from anger, from heartbreak. The betrayal wasn't just about sex. It wasn't about lust. It was about trust, about the sacred thing we had built over 20 years being smashed to pieces by a kid I once called son and a woman I thought was my best friend. I backed away again. Not because I was weak. But because I needed a plan. I needed to know everything. Every single thing. That night, I sat across from her at dinner like a detective behind a mask. Ryan was eating his spaghetti, chatting about a school trip. Emily smiled, passed him the bread, asked him about his grades. Like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been upstairs just hours before, tangled up with his best friend. I studied her face. Her hands. Her expressions. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't recognize her. Who was this woman? Later that night, when she kissed me goodnight and rolled over, I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. I installed a small camera the next morning. Just one. Disguised inside the bookshelf in the living room, pointed toward the hall. I hated myself for doing it. Hated the paranoia, the sneaking around. But I needed to see. I needed to know. And when I finally watched the footage that Friday, there they were. Emily in her robe. Eli slipping through the front door. Her touching his chest. Him kissing her neck. Her whispering something in his ear as they moved out of frame toward the stairs. I turned it off. That was enough. I didn't need more. Because this wasn't just some stupid mistake. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was deliberate. Calculated. Ongoing. And now I had to decide what came next. The air in the house was thick that morning, heavy with silence, tension, and a truth only I knew. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of black coffee I didn't plan to drink. The cup sat steaming, untouched, just like the trust one used to have in my wife. Across from me, Emily hummed while buttering toast, dressed in her casual yoga pants and loose sweater, acting like the woman I once knew. But something in her eyes was different now, something unspoken. I kept watching her hands. The way they moved. The same hands that once held our newborn son, now touching a boy who used to sleep over in his room. I couldn't stop picturing it. Them. Together. And I realized, this wasn't just betrayal. This was desecration. Of our marriage. Of our family. Of my peace. That morning, I had a choice, keep pretending, or pull the curtain back. I decided I was done pretending. Emily, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. We need to talk. She froze. It was so fast, so small, most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. Her hand paused over the toast. Her smile faded a fraction. Her head tilted slowly, calculating. What's wrong? She asked, soft and sweet. I let out a breath. I know. She blinked. Know what? I leaned forward, both hands flat on the table. Eli. I know about you and Eli. Her face went pale. She didn't ask how. She didn't pretend to misunderstand. Her lips parted, then closed again, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. And then, quietly, as if defeated, she sat down across from me. I never meant for this to happen, she whispered. That line. The oldest line in the book. I laughed once, bitter, hollow. You never meant to sleep with our son's best friend? Is that what you're saying? Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't care. Not anymore. You don't understand, she said. You've been so distant. For years. I stood up. My chair screeched against the floor. Don't you dare put this on me. She flinched. You could have talked to me. Screamed at me. Asked for therapy. Hell, you could have divorced me. But instead, you crawled into bed with someone half your age, someone who calls me sir when he sees me. I was trembling. With anger. With humiliation. With disbelief. I didn't plan it, she whispered. Stop saying that. I barked. It wasn't a slip. It's been going on for weeks. Weeks, Emily. Silence settled between us like dust on a dead thing. She wiped at her cheeks with trembling fingers. I'm sorry. You're sorry you got caught. No, she tried, but I held up my hand. Where did you meet? When did it start? I demanded. She didn't answer at first. Just stared at the table. I asked again, voice lower this time. Tell me. She hesitated. Then, that night when you and Ryan were at the baseball game. He stopped by to drop something off. It was just one of those moments. I shook my head slowly. And it kept happening. She nodded once, like she couldn't bear to say the word yes. I closed my eyes. My whole body was vibrating with the weight of what I'd just heard. And Ryan? I asked. Do you even care what this will do to him? Her face collapsed. No. I mean, yes. Of course, I care. I wasn't thinking clearly. I turned and walked out of the kitchen before I did something I'd regret. That night, I slept in the guest room. I didn't speak to her. Didn't eat dinner. Didn't even look at her. I stared at the ceiling for hours, thinking about Ryan, about what I was supposed to tell him. How I would tell him. Should I even tell him? And Eli. That coward. I wanted to confront him too. Man to man. Or maybe just beat him within an inch of his life. But that wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't give me back the years I gave her. It wouldn't restore the trust. The quiet mornings. The shared laughter over dinner. The warmth of her hand in mine. I wanted justice. But what I needed more than anything was clarity. So the next day, I met with a divorce lawyer. Emily cried when I told her. She tried bargaining. Promised to cut him off. Said she'd do therapy. Anything. But it was too late. Something in me had cracked. A deep, fundamental part of me that once believed love could survive anything. And now. I knew better. Sometimes, love doesn't die. It gets killed, smothered by lies, infidelity, and the cruelness of knowing your forever person chose someone else. Willingly. I wasn't perfect. God knows I made mistakes in our marriage. I withdrew at times. I buried myself in work. I forgot to notice her pain. But I never cheated. Never broke my vows. And I couldn't stay with someone who did. That was my line. I didn't tell Ryan right away. He was still just a kid, even if he thought he wasn't. But one evening, he came into my room, eyes confused and scared. "Why isn't Mom sleeping in your room anymore?" he asked. And I had to lie. For now. I told him we were working through something hard. That sometimes adults mess up. That I loved him no matter what. But inside, I was screaming. Because how do you explain to a teenage boy that his best friend destroyed his family? You don't. You wait. You pray. And you hope one day, the truth will come out in a way that doesn't completely destroy him. It was 2 weeks after I served Emily the divorce papers when everything truly began to unravel. Ryan had become distant. Withdrawn. He didn't talk much, barely touched his food, and avoided both of us as much as possible. At first, I thought it was just normal teenage mood swings, or maybe he was picking up on the tension in the house. But something was brewing under the surface, and I could feel it. One Friday evening, I came home to find Ryan sitting on the front porch alone. No phone, no music, no friends. Just sitting there with a look on his face I'll never forget. Pale. Blank. Like someone who'd just seen a ghost. "Hey," I said, easing down beside him. "Everything okay?" He didn't look at me. Just stared ahead. "I went to Eli's house today," he said, voice flat. I stiffened, heart immediately pounding. I didn't know he'd still been in touch with him. I didn't know how much he knew. Ryan turned to me, eyes red-rimmed but dry. He told me, "Dad." I closed my eyes. I didn't believe him at first, he went on. I thought he was messing with me or... I don't know. But then he showed me the messages. On his phone. From Mom. A sharp breath cut through my chest. "Ryan." He said it happened more than once, Ryan said, shaking his head. That it wasn't just some mistake. That, she said she loved him. He looked straight at me, and I'll never forget the look in his eyes. He was my best friend. And she was my mom. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. I reached out to place a hand on his back, but he flinched away. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Be honest." "A few weeks," I said quietly. "I didn't know how to tell you." He nodded slowly, lips tightening. "You should have told me the moment you found out. Not let me keep talking to him like nothing happened. Not let me defend her." I didn't argue. He was right. But nothing prepares you to sit your child down and tell him his own mother had an affair with his best friend. Nothing. "I'm sorry," I said. "More than you can imagine." He looked down at his shoes. "I don't think I can ever talk to her again." I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. "I feel sick," he whispered. Like everything I knew was a lie. It broke me. Because I remembered being his age. Believing my parents were untouchable. That home was safe. That the world couldn't crack that foundation. But now, he knew better. And I hated that he had to learn it like this. The next day, Ryan refused to come out of his room. He wouldn't speak to his mother. Wouldn't even look at her. Emily stood outside his door for nearly half an hour, begging him to let her in. He never did. Later, she came to me, crying. He hates me. I didn't answer. Because deep down, I did too. She reached out for my hand. I stepped back. This isn't something I can fix, I said. I know I ruined everything, she sobbed. Yes, I said. You did. Her shoulders shook as she covered her mouth, stifling a scream. She wanted sympathy. She wanted softness. But I had nothing left to give her. My only concern now was Ryan. And even that felt impossible. Because every time I looked at him, I saw myself, not the man I am today, but the boy I used to be. Trusting. Believing. Then broken. He didn't deserve this. None of us did. That Sunday, Ryan packed a bag and asked to stay with my brother for a while. I just need space, he said, not looking at either of us. Emily cried again, but this time I didn't stop him. He needed air. Distance. Maybe healing. I stood on the driveway and watched him drive off in my brother's car, a knot forming in my throat. Not because I was afraid he was leaving, but because I was afraid of what he was leaving behind. A broken mother. A broken home. A broken version of love. The silence in the house became unbearable. Emily barely spoke. She moved like a ghost, her eyes sunken, her voice a whisper when she dared use it. One night, I found her sitting on the floor of our bedroom with an old photo album. Pictures of us. Our wedding. Vacations. Ryan's first steps. Her face was soaked in tears, lips trembling. I can't believe I did this, she said. I don't even know who I am anymore. Cross mark. I didn't answer. Because what could I say? She made her choice. Now we all had to live with it. And that's the cruelest part of betrayal, it never hurts just one person. It rips through everyone like a storm. Unrelenting. Unforgiving. Unforgettable. After Ryan left, the house was hollow. I'd walk into his room and still smell his shampoo, see his half-read comic books, and feel the weight of his absence in every corner. He didn't text much. When he did, it was short. I'm fine. Yeah, I ate. Still not ready to come back. It crushed me. But I gave him the space he asked for. Emily stayed, but she wasn't really here. She moved through the house like a shadow, barely speaking unless she needed something. Once in a while, I'd find her sitting in silence, staring at nothing, like she was stuck in a memory she couldn't escape. I had stopped sleeping in the same bed weeks ago. I took the guest room, not out of anger, but because something sacred had been broken, and I couldn't lie beside her pretending otherwise. The woman I once trusted more than anyone in the world had burned that trust to ash. What remained between us was something fragile, cold, and unfamiliar. One night, maybe a week after Ryan left, Emily knocked on the door to the guest room. I opened it and saw her standing there in her robe, her face pale, eyes swollen. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded and stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor for a long time before she spoke. "I keep thinking about the first time I met you," she whispered. "Remember that pizza place by the beach?" I didn't respond. "You had that dumb college hoodie on," she said with a sad smile. "And you were trying so hard to act like you didn't care that your hair was all windblown." I gave a hollow chuckle. "I remember." She looked at me then. "How did we get here?" I sighed and leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Because you made a choice. And now we're living in the ruins of it." Emily wiped her eyes and nodded. "I know I'll never be able to undo it. But I don't want to lose our son. I don't want to lose everything. It's not about what you want anymore, I said softly. It's about what you did. The silence between us grew heavy. Then I added, I'm not sure if you understand this yet, but this wasn't just infidelity. This was betrayal on every level. You didn't just cheat on me, you violated something sacred between you and our son. You crossed a line that can't be blurred. She broke down then, chest heaving, hands over her mouth, sobbing like she couldn't breathe. I didn't comfort her. Not out of cruelty. But because healing doesn't come from pretending the wound isn't real. That night, she slept in our bedroom. I stayed in the guest room, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. All I could think about was Ryan. Was he okay? Would he come back? Would he ever trust her again? Would he ever be able to talk about it without his voice breaking? Weeks passed. I filed for full custody. Emily didn't fight it. Ryan came home eventually, but only to pick up his things. He barely said a word to her. Just looked through her like she was a stranger. Before he left, I walked him to the car. Are you sure you don't want to stay tonight? I asked. He shook his head. Uncle Dave's house is better for now. He gives me space. I nodded. He hesitated at the car door. Then, looking up at me, he said, "Thanks for not lying to me." That hit deep. It reminded me that even in the worst of storms, honesty still matters. Even when truth hurts, it's better than the silence that comes from secrets. It's been almost a year now. Emily and I are separated. The divorce is nearly final. She moved into a small apartment across town and started seeing a therapist. She asked if Ryan would join them for counseling someday. He said maybe. But I could tell he wasn't ready. I don't know what the future holds for any of us. But I know one thing for sure. When betrayal enters a home, it doesn't knock. It kicks down the door, shatters everything inside, and leaves behind a silence so loud, it echoes through every corner of your life. But sometimes, in that silence, you hear the truth more clearly than ever before. And sometimes, that truth is the only thing that sets you free. The end.